Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let's make dua inshallah. Let's start. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Allahumma rabbana yassir wa la tu'assir wa tamim bil khair wa bika nasta'in ya fattah. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. فسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Inshallah, we want to continue on our topic, etiquettes in marriage. And we had reached a point where we had mentioned the walima. And that's the last stage basically in the marriage or the relationship to the point of marriage. The last thing that one would do is the walima, the feast. And that will conclude the process of marriage. And if we review, and before we conclude on the part of marriage, let's review every aspect of what we have talked so far about in a few minutes, inshallah. And the first aspect of it we had mentioned was the general concept of marriage. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُمْ. Marry those whom are pleasing to you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made marriage a principle by which human beings would be able to live in a relationship together. And there are other ways people do it without marriage being the forefront of their life system. And they would relate with some other person, other human being of the opposite sex, like that. But in Islam, and from the time this deen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought man on the face of the earth, He had used the medium of marriage for this purpose. He has used the medium of marriage for this purpose. So man on the whole came into existence and Allah had made for him a mate. And through this mate, the system of marriage had continued. Today, if we would examine the world, and we mentioned this on the last very instant part of this class, that many type of systems and norms have crept into society when it comes to marriage. But what about us and marriage today in societies? There's a separation between the religion and the state. That the state controls certain aspects of what we live by in morality, and religion is also separated from what human beings live by in obedience to their creator. The distinction now is that when we look at the religion and state plays an important and integral role in marriage. One, for marriage to be legal and legit, it must go hand in hand with legalizing it by a document, a marriage certificate. And that marriage certificate works wonders for people because it binds them legally and it has certain rights with it. But it doesn't carry with it guidelines that will make that individual more loving to that individual, to their spouse, or to make that individual more caring. All it does is a legal piece of paper that allows them to be binded by that relationship. So the state only fulfills one right. But the religious aspect of what marriage is about has nothing to do with a legal document. It has to do with a legal relationship that Allah allows to take place by the law that Allah has ordained for man to live. And the legal law only ends by 2 or 3 different formats. One, the person dies and the marriage, that legal document carries no value except that the wife or whoever, the husband, they benefit from the marriage based on that document. And the other aspect of the legal thing is by what? Divorce, separation. That document is also useful at that point in time. And if there's an abandonment, it also works in that point in time as a benefit. Other than that, that piece of paper ends like that. But for the accountability within our lives as married couple goes hand in hand, not with anything in this world, but in the hereafter. Because what is the aspect of marriage in Islam? Is that it's hukukul ibad. The way we relate with a next human being. There are rights to a next human being. And the rights to our wife or our husband is a relationship that Allah has explicitly made clear, and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has made clear as how this relationship should be maintained. And failure to uphold this means that we are accountable to Allah for that dealing with that person. No one else but with Allah and Allah alone. So the first aspect is what society views marriage as, and they only look at the end result, or how to make ends meet when things either get going good or really bad or out of hand. That is as far as the law and the relationship with marriage will go in the law of the land. And there is even consideration now that they want to make what? Gay marriages and other types of marriages that are not in connection with what Allah has made law, but what Allah has made forbidden. And they want to make it now law. And if such things that were abhorred and disliked by man before and by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes law, then we should also reconsider the point of view that they have also not made into consideration that if such things were to come into law, then at least the relationship that a man who wants to have more than one wife should also be law. Because if you can allow other things to happen, then protect the rights of those women who will be in such a relationship that is also legally right for them. Although Allah has His legal laws established for such relationship, but legally consideration must be given to it. So we must also look at what the law is trying to do with relationships and what type of relationships. And as Muslims, we must be very conscious of it. I'm not encouraging or endorsing any type of having more than one wife or anything. What I'm trying to say is that we should know and see what is happening with the laws of our land and what we as Muslims see happening and what we ourselves are being prevented from. So that goes as far as understanding that. Now, we looked at the aspect of the purpose of marriage. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that marriage was for the purpose of maintaining what? Not just maintaining a spouse or a husband or a wife. It wasn't that purpose. It was to maintain a life of chastity. That it was easier to commit wrong than to maintain a relationship with someone legally. So the purpose of marriage, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given it. And there are many verses that tells us for giving us tranquility and for spreading and multiplying the population of man, and so many different things, aspects of what marriage does. But really and truly, these verses connect all well in hand for the purpose behind marriage. And apart from all of this, it is a natural aspect of men and women that they would fall in love with the opposite person amongst themselves to get married to. And that desire would be there. So it is purposely well done like that. Allah has made us like that, and hence marriage and the purpose of marriage, we fulfill it. Sometimes we see when we go into a relationship, we get married, we have children, we would enslave our lives to ensure that our children are happy. We do anything possible to make sure that they're happy. You ask yourselves, you will grow up your whole life, get married to someone, and then now become a slave to your children. Amazing how much things we would do in a relationship after all of that. Who makes that possible? Allah. So the purpose of it happening is by Allah's permission. Allah has made it, that is the natural way for us to be involved in a relationship like this. Now, the need for marriage. What was the purpose? The next aspect of it, when does the need arise? So the need arises for marriage when that individual has that feeling and desire to be with the opposite sex. No two ways about it. If you have feelings for someone and you want to be involved with this person, then the only allowable situation that Allah has given is marriage. However, conditions do arise if that is the need. Because we might have need for food, we might have need for everything else, but fulfilling that need also have what? Requirements. We just can't say we have a need without actually fulfilling the rights of that need, understanding how that need is fulfilled. So sometimes we might have a need to clip our nails because our nails are very long. But what do? We must first acquire a nail clipper and then fulfill the rights of clipping the nails and how to do it. All of that must be done. But having a need for marriage comes only when that need arises for someone. But then fulfilling the requirements, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned about it, that if a person cannot fulfill the rights of it, then he should what? Fast. He should fast. Because fasting may be the only level of protection that one would have against falling into what? The prey of evil and wrong and in illicit relationship. So he says, and he advised fasting. But if you cannot really fast for all those days and nights, then make preparation fast to fulfill your needs. And the advice of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, do not delay in 3 things. And among the 3 things he mentioned, one of them was marriage. And in that process, that involves a number of people. So it becomes a need, and the need can become fard, essential that I must get married now. You see me, if I don't do it now, I could end up losing my whole what? Chastity, and my whole life could be destroyed. Or it could become, I could still wait a little longer, so I'll plan, I take it usually within the sunnah rights, the sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so I will fulfill that right. But it depends on how our needs arise. And we have to fulfill that need by making sure that adequate preparation is fulfilled as well. You just can't have a need and don't have what? Proper arrangements to fulfill our relationship. So it entails a number of things. A man, if he wants to get married, he must also be able to provide for his spouse, his wife, to the best of his ability, and that person must also be willing to fit into that relationship, knowing the condition of the individual that she is getting married to. Alright, so the next aspect tells us now how to go about seeking this spouse. One is to have the need, and then how to find the adequate person. And if we leave it to society to do that for us, then what do we end up with? What do society use today as their medium of getting someone in a relationship? 99% of the time we say it is never an arranged marriage. It is either they meet at the schools, they meet at the workplace, they meet at the line place, and they have courting relationships, may go on for years. And sometimes it may work, and sometimes it may not work. And even at the point in time they will have a courting relationship, may go on for years, but when it comes now to holding on to a marriage, they can't. They can't. This is what society does. And we see many women also as well, and men also fall prey to this as well, that they try to entice themselves to be attractive enough for a spouse or to attract someone to be close to them. And they will do many things to get that attraction. In Islam, do we have that? What does Islam offer us as an alternative? Or what is the right way for us to live our lives? And when it comes to marriage and getting someone, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us what to look for in a woman. First of all, the Quran says, Ma tawbalakum, who is pleasing to you. And pleasing to you in what respect? The hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, what should be the pleasing thing? The pleasing thing should be that, one, you look at her beauty. Nothing is wrong. If you like someone, look at her beauty. It should not be that when you reach later down in life, my mother or my father arranged my marriage as though they didn't have a good glasses to wear. Probably they had bad lens on. Look at the person they choose for me. They couldn't see well. Probably it was too dark. What really went wrong? And you're blaming what? Parents later on in life for making choices for us. But really and truly, the principle of marriage is not based on even that. Because if we look at what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us, her beauty is one. His beauty or how handsome he is or what you like from him. But that's just a criterion, one. And then he says, Malaha, her wealth. You can also look at that. And you can also look at her nasab, her lineage. What and how good is it? Whether it is best to be in that relationship and in that family, you find yourself convenient and find it happy to be there, then you also choose from that. And also, he says, but the best of all in these, the fourth one, he says, is the level of taqwa, her piety. How well she acquaints with Allah. That's what we should look for. So these criterions that I mentioned here, 4 of them, they are all well intact and permissible to choose from. But the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam made emphasis on the 4th one, piety and taqwa. You see, beauty would go away as age would what? Pass, and time will dwindle away, and you will find yourself getting older and older, and all the beauty and all of the things that you were looking like, smooth skin, then you start getting rough skin, and all different things that happen, and your size starts to change. So many things, and you say, you know, you try to feel this. If it was on beauty, then that also lost. If it was on wealth, the possibility that it could what? Either grow, or it could what? Disappear. If it was on her lineage, then families don't last forever. But piety is such a quality, it goes up and it goes down. It grows and you can make it grow even more. And in that lies the best of all for us. So the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam emphasized, choose piety. So in seeking a spouse, out of the 4, he says piety. However, there are a list of things that one must look at while seeking and looking for someone in your life. That person must be the person whom, if we look at our society today, is not like at the time of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have more equipments, we have all sorts of different types of facilities around us, job systems, everything has changed. Many things have changed, and then to know. But one thing has not changed, is that Iman and belief in Allah remains the same. Taqwa is a quality that remains the same. Islam has remained the same in terms of what the etiquettes and the rulings and the principles that are involved for us to be as Muslims. That has not changed. Salah has not changed. Zakat has not changed. The time for fasting has not changed. All of these things have remained the same. So these are the things that constitute piety and taqwa. Nothing else. In other words, when it was asked by one of the wives of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she asked, what will be the difference between the women of this world and the hurs of Jannah? Who are more beautiful? And what makes them more beautiful? Or who is more beautiful and what will encourage to be more beautiful? So the first of it, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam advised. So, see, the hurs of Jannah, Allah has made them beautiful. Without a doubt, they are beautiful. But the women who are believers and righteous in this world, they will be even more beautiful. So he says, so what is the condition? What makes them more beautiful? The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, 1, their salah will make them more beautiful. Their zakah will make them more beautiful. Their sawm, their fasting will make them more beautiful. Their dhikrullah, their remembrance of Allah, their thought to their and obedience towards their husband, taking care of their husband, taking care of their children, they're bringing children into this world. That is all of their benefits to make them the best of women in paradise. More beautiful. The more they are obedient to Allah, the more they serve Allah, the more they are nice and loving to their husband, they will receive a greater beauty in Jannah. These are the things that will grow their beauty. No foundation, no lipstick, no amount of perfume. None of these things are going to make them beautiful. What is going to make them beautiful? Their ibadat. Their worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No amount of clothes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, gives this clarification to his wives, so let them understand clearly that in paradise, their beauty is dependent on how they live their lives in this world. Their beauty is dependent on how they live their lives in this world. So, when we look at what is mentioned here, piety seems to be the blessed thing that will be of benefit to both male and female, but also to the wife in particular. To earn that position of beauty in Jannah, it comes with obedience. That is the quality that is going to grant them that success. So, seeking a spouse is dependent on this. The next aspect what we looked at was who to marry and who we couldn't get married to. Whilst in the process of marriage, we should know who are the people we can get married to and who we cannot get married to. And the Quran gives us a listing of those things. Surah An-Nisa, we check it. You look at all the people who you can get married to and who you cannot get married to. And Allah SWT has made it clear in the Quran for us. Then, the readiness for marriage. We spoke about that. You see, one is the child gets the desire and the urge to get married. They have the need to get married. But are they really ready for marriage? Have we equipped our children to become husband or wives? The readiness. Are they in that level? You see, we train our children to do jobs. You could become an accountant. You could become a doctor. You could be an engineer. You could do all types of things. You could become a lawyer. But can you be a good husband or a good wife? So, what training you need for that? What training do we really need to become a good husband or a good wife? Is there any training needed for that? You know, most people would say, well, once she could cook or wash, that is good enough. But that doesn't cut it. That doesn't cut it. All right? Because you always get that washer and dryer. But really and truly, what really tells us what is the readiness of a husband or a wife is dependent on what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has advised. What should be adopted when one become married? What the life entails. And who teach that? Who would teach that to your children? Would we leave it for somebody special to do it? Or are we not entrusted with that responsibility to encourage our children on the path of righteousness so that they can have and treat with their spouses, their wife and their husband with the best of pleasing Allah and pleasing them? And we are the ones responsible for that. Parents are the ones who have to make sure that their children are ready for marriage. One is balagat, reaching a puberty. One is also the ability to have the need fulfilled and having a job, but also the readiness of being married for the sake and pleasure of Allah. I am prepared to do this. Because if you have taught them everything in life and say a job is enough, I've seen many cases where jobs and money did not matter in a marriage. Job, money, house, land did not matter in the marriage. It didn't matter because it didn't help the relationship. And I've seen where people live in poverty, hardship, but they live a meaningful life because it was not about living with money to make it happen. It doesn't matter. What really strikes out is the level in which that person is ready for the sake of Allah to maintain a relationship. And that's why we are always warned by the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because this marriage is a part of readiness. If a person wants to say, I want to pray, no problem, you want to pray. But is he ready to pray? Could he go to salah or she go to salah without wudu? One must, before ready for salat, must have his tinja properly, must have wudu properly, must be dressed properly, and must be ready in the correct time to pray. He can't be ready for what? For Fajr salat after what? Sunrise? And say, well, I'll wake up a little late, but I'm still ready. We could do qada. But the readiness and the fulfillment of the waqt and the time and everything must be there for that salah. So readiness for marriage is also an important part that must be taught and lived. Lived. And the best way to teach our children that life and that understanding is by the way the husband and wife relate to each other in their homes. The way they relate to each other. Because sometimes a husband, a daughter may say at times, I don't want to ever get a husband like my father. The way he does treat my mother, And it can be vice versa. Because these are things, if not taught out properly, could leave scars on our children that will make them become blind to certain things. That yes, there are obstacles in our marriages. Yes, there are difficulties. Not every day is a happy day. Yes, we could quarrel. Yes, we could argue. Yes, we may have differences of opinion. Some days we may be sad. Some days we may be angry. But how do we treat with those things in our relationship will make an impact on the lives of our children. And they're dealing with their spouses. But if we, when we are angry, take it out on them physically or verbally, or have some type of way of, keep on antagonizing and making that bitterness within our relationship, don't think that our children are not seeing that. So that readiness is very important. If we want our children to learn from us, it starts by ourselves living that life. Not any one of the books say, you want to learn about marriage? Here, look at a book on marriage. This is good. Read this book and you'll be all right. That's not going to help. Because it may guide them, but it's not going to help if you give them a book and you yourself don't what? Follow this book. What sense does it make? You're telling me to do something and you yourself don't do it? This is how important it is that we live our lives so that our children would see. Then we look at the aspect of after finding this person and having the readiness of marriage, we say, I wonder if this thing would work. Who do we rely on after? We learned about istikhara. Istikhara is seeking Allah's guidance, and that is important. Istikhara must be taught out from very small to our children. Whilst growing up, that asking and making dua to Allah, grant me a righteous spouse to get married to. It may not be that you are ready, but it is part of the process of readiness, putting reliance on Allah. That Allah would seek someone who would be of a virtuous person to me, and a benefit to me, and a benefit to this deen. Always make dua for this, that Allah blesses you to a spouse that will benefit you in life. And not only benefit you in life, not materially or these things alone, but benefit you so that you will reach the akhirah with the pleasure of Allah. With the pleasure of Allah. So that is istikhara, and we mentioned that dua and all the aspects of the dua, but understanding it is that istikhara teaches us the importance of relying on Allah. No matter what the outcome of that marriage be, istikhara will become such a benefit that it allows you to enjoy the comforts of the difficulty, even though it is difficult.
Explain what is istikhara and how it should be done.
All right. Well, that particular session when we did istikhara, we talk about the dua itself and what Allah mentions about the dua, whether it is good in it, whether it is bad in it. Oh Allah, you make that choice and I rely on Allah. No, istikhara in itself really means making a choice, right? But that choice, they are human knowledge that we have. We will know everything and everything seems to be so good. I really feel I want to get into this marriage. But that is what? Within only our human capability and thinking. So things that we may know is only what? Limited. Allah's knowledge of everything is what? Beyond what we could think. So Allah knows now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what the outcome will be. So if Allah's intervention come and tells us and show us something, then what? Istikhara will benefit us. It will benefit us in leading us in that direction. And even if we still take the path that we are on and we rely on Allah, despite my going on this, I'm only doing this because my heart leads me towards this and my guidance is towards this. And Allah, make it easy for me, whatever the outcome will be out of it. Now, one should not go to istikhara with the purpose, for example, well, you tell your mommy, look, I like this boy or I like this girl, but in your heart, you what? You don't fix already. Istikhara have no place there. Your mother and father say, well, go and do istikhara. So you're doing istikhara, but you don't have istikhara. You don't make that khiyar and that choice already. No choice again. That is already there. So the purpose of it was then to just what? Please parents, not to please Allah. It should be only to please Allah, so that Allah will bring ease in that. And istikhara is not just only for what? Marriage. Istikhara is for all types of things. Business. We have some other challenges in our life. We want to move to our next place. We want to travel. We want to do something. Make istikhara. Turn to Allah. Rely on Allah. It is an opportunity that will benefit us and having the help of Allah with us at all times. That is what basically istikhara does for us. After that, we went ahead to fast track from there on to the process now of engagement. You ready now? Engagement, or what we'll call fixing the marriage. Because when you hear engagement in Trinidad or in different parts of the world, sometimes this engagement feels like it's a marriage already. We say that engagement is not marriage. Engagement is a arrangement. A readiness to marry, that I'm confirming, yes, I'm going to what? Get married to you, and so on, so on. So we discuss all our different aspects of what? What we'll be living by, what we'll do. We discuss the meher, the dowry, as we would say, and what it will be like. All of these things we discuss. All the arrangements that you want, if you have conditions that you want prior to the marriage, you want to know things, you want to find out things. If you get into a relationship with somebody, and later on you say, well, I never know it was this. All those things you find out at this point in time. You don't need much time to know these things. Whatever in your mind that is bothering you about a situation, you're going to go into a relationship and you want to clarify it there and then. Because sometimes later down the road, when you do clarify things, you never get to know until then. And then you say, it's too late. Well, I won't say it's too late. Maybe you could find a way around, getting around it, rather than living like that. So, that point of engagement in the marriage is really to teach us that, now is the time where you make your arrangements properly. You make clear everything properly. What you want out of a marriage. What is it? And if that person cannot, fulfill your requirements, and you do not make demands and say, well, make demands beyond what is capable of the individual. Well, you see, if I get married to you, before you have to get me a house, and get me this, and get me a car, and this, and that. That's not a agreement for a marriage. In other words, those are material things that you want, does not fit for what? A relationship.
Because I would strongly recommend that the wife asks for a separate place to stay rather than stay with in-laws. That is a big problem.
Well,
that we do address.
And that is a requirement if the wife desires that. And no, even if she goes in a relationship, right, which I was going to bring up in the last part, but not to bring up what, no problem. If she goes into the in-laws' home and she demands, see what, I can't live in this house. Now, I'm saying this, but ladies should be very cautious as well, just don't go and demand it. Is that if you say, I can't live with your parents or your brothers and your siblings, I need my own quarters, he have to fulfill that right. He has to fulfill that right. Now, do not be demanding, I would say. Because, all right, as I said, at the same time, do not be demanding. Because the fact is that sometimes you could put the person under due stress. Now, I am saying he had to be lazy. Sometimes you say, well, yeah, we could try. And when years pass and he's still what? Still trying. What he should show there is that a determination, certain sacrifice, certain amount of effort will be put in place so that he knows that down the road they are making effort towards this, she can see this, and eventually they can have their own place. But it is a good thing. But before, it is okay. Okay? And maybe renting may be an option as well, or some other avenue. If you find difficulties in your home sometimes, I would strongly recommend that sometimes living away from your parents, both parents, is best. It helps the love to grow more. Sometimes, though, it may be needed that you be with your parents because they may be of old age and they need your support, and you have to be there as well. But you have to know how to fit it in. Don't just say, well, I will learn to live by myself and leave them alone. It may be very well needed both ways. We have to weigh that option and know when it needs to fit in wherever. Yeah. Or close by, it could work too. But no, but that's what I say. It is a caution that, yeah, right. It's obvious. But not every occasion, in the time of Rasulullah, they never had homes or they never had buildings or structures. That's simple things. But society today, if you're going to put up a cardboard house or a ply house, they would think that is something really what? They might think you're squatting. Really and truly, the best thing is to have your own, but it shouldn't be under due pressure. It shouldn't be under due pressure. It should be that there is a serious desire. Remember today in our society, homes don't cost, 10 years ago it may cost $100,000, $200,000 for a home, but today it costs in the millions for a home. Alright? But go with something simple, separate if you want to rent. If you want to rent, what I'm saying, it is an option. Sometimes you're in an in-law's home that they treat you like queen or king. Yeah. That is true. That is true. Some of them would say that after a while, after a few bad habits show up, or a few of them show up, sometimes become difficult. And the realistic thing is, yes, Rasulullah did make that mention, hadith, you'll find it, that if they make such demands, the wife makes such demand, then he has to what? Provide at home to the best of his ability. But I am saying out of caution, we should not be what? Difficult. We should not be difficult on it. Out of caution, because sometimes it could become a nagging issue. And a nagging issue could actually destroy a relationship. And before you know it, instead of living together, you become all apart. So it is with consideration, and due consideration is given, yeah.
Living together to just cause the separation.
Yeah. Both ways.
Play it safe.
Yeah. And that is, I would say, a must. Because I hear in many relationships sometimes, you have children and you're living together in an extended family. Your children might do something, and you might be the poor child for that, and you may not want to do that, but because of the fact that you're trying to please your parents and your brother-in-law or sister-in-law or somebody, it may be the wrong approach to use. But we'll come to those relationships later on. Inshallah, we talk about marriage life, which is something we're going to discuss later on. But what we are discussing now is that while the pre-arrangement is that the person wants this, the demand should not be so high, because sometimes you tell the person, when you get this house and you get this land and you take 10 years to get it, it may be hard. But you have to know where to stop and where the line to draw the line. Will be reasonable. All right. Now, we looked at then, after looking at the engagement and the prenups and so on, we looked after at the marriage itself. We say that society today have their system of marriage. How they carry about their marriages, we see between all three religions, major religions in our country. You can't really tell the difference, except that you might have it in a church or a temple or in the mosque. But if you go in a hall, it might be very difficult to tell the distinction, because it's almost the same type of setting. The same types of setting. Except when the imam would go up or the other religious leaders would go up, then you might know the difference. But in Islam, we had learned the etiquettes and the way and the life of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam when it comes to marriage. What we do, I'm not saying that it is totally what? Wrong, because we also fulfill the obligation and the rights. But what we are trying to do is to pull our lives closer to the way and the life of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what we are trying to do. It's not that I'm saying we have a quick fix. Everything will change over. But if we go back to the lifestyle of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our lives will become simpler. Our marriages will become simpler. Our expenses will become less. And we may have more money to spend on other things that will be more beneficial. Not that a marriage and spending and food and decoration and all these things may not be good enough. We must have our place nice. We must do things. We are living in a society where we no longer have houses like that 1400 years ago. We have good homes. We want to maintain a good relationship. We want to have a good marriage. All well and good. But we do not what? Go beyond our means. We don't go beyond our means. As we would say, do not hang your hat where you cannot reach. Live within the means, spend within the means, give your children a marriage within your means, so that they would know that no matter how much they have in life, they would see from it that simplicity starts within your own life. It's not to please anyone, but to please Allah. And if they can learn it from that marriage, no matter how much demands our children would make, I want so much friends to come, I want this to come, you have to make it clear from small. Bring up our children with simplicity. Look, this is what I can afford. This is what I can give. And we're doing this to the pleasure of Allah. Not for people, for the pleasure of Allah. So make the marriage simple. And it was mentioned by the Rasulullah about what? Not wasting and destroying in that marriage. Alright? Now, when we look at the sunnah and the etiquette of Rasulullah, we say that Nikaah, the contract of the marriage, came first. Usually it was done on a Friday, best time, and we invite to that particular occasion people whom Rasulullah has advised, people who will make dua, who will be sincere, who will be there for the purpose of asking and invoking Allah's blessings upon that newly wedded couple. And we looked at the adverse, that if people advise, what we see in society today, as to what the Rasulullah had advised, is that many times we bring people to or invite people to our marriage, and what they do? They come with their trunks open, and they come with themselves almost standing properly, all right, and almost could talk, and they what? Really can't what? Be of any benefit in making dua to Allah in such conditions. Alright, I'm not saying that we invite only these type of people to our marriage ceremony, because both of friendship and all of different things we might invite people. But when it comes to marriage, make the nikah simple, private. If you know at your walima, your expense, otherwise you want to just invite them for that purpose, that is different. But to the nikah itself, keep that as pure as possible. And if not, keep everything pure as possible. You don't want to get yourself involved and entangled in any type of things as such. Because we should not be what? Serving alcohol. Neither have people what? Bringing alcohol to what? To be served. Right? It's as clear as that. Now, so the nikah takes place on the Friday. It could be any other day too as well. We're just looking at the recommended sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the etiquettes of it. And the walima after the consummation, or it could be even before the consummation of the marriage. Whichever is still okay. The walima being on the same day is all well and good, or it could be on a different day. And the walima is usually hosted by the male. The boy hosts the walima. Why he hosts the walima is a sign of showing gratitude to Allah for granting him a spouse. Why aqiqah is done? Is to show Allah gratitude for granting you a child. So having been blessed with a wife, that person must show gratitude to Allah. Rasulullah says, "Law bishat," and even if it's with a goat, or the littlest of means, show gratitude to Allah. Give something, share something, show this happiness and show gratitude to Allah by having a walima. Even as simple as it may be, do something for the pleasure of Allah. Do something for the pleasure of Allah. As little as it be. Even if it is what? Dates. If it is water. If it is milk. But do something so that Allah be pleased that we have shown gratitude to Allah for granting us a spouse. Having a wife and being blessed with a wife is not by coincidence. Oh, I can get anybody I want. Don't ever think so. You cannot get anybody that you want, or I can be with anybody I feel I want to be with. It's not so. A wife is something that Allah has blessed man with for a purpose. And that purpose is tremendous. Your wife, your intimacy, your close relationship, the one who cooks for you, the one who takes care of you when you are sick, the one who is there to comfort you, the one who is there to do so many things, take care of your children, your home, your property, to safeguard you, to bring sakina and tranquility in your life. Show gratitude to Allah for granting you a wife. Because this is something that we may not want to see, but it is what it is. It is what it is. It is for that purpose that Allah has blessed that with wives. And hence show gratitude to Allah for it. So the way that we see this nikah and the walima takes place is that the walima should be done after by the spouse. However, when we look at our system of marriage in our society today as Muslims, we see it to be what? That we usually have, as you mentioned last class, boy side, girl side, and food and more food, and all different types of things going on, and dressing, and then we say how the girls would dress and the boy would dress, and they are the center of attraction. And really and truly, sometimes we really not fully dress. We three-quarter dress for the what? Marriage. We three-quarter dress instead of what? Being fully dressed. And that is something that you have to be conscious about, is that particular time is what? Another time for attracting somebody else. You already what? Attracted to somebody already. You're already contracting a marriage. That is the time to what? Make dua and ask Allah for it to go well now. That's what it is here about. So the real thing here is for us to understand what we do. It is not entirely the best, but it does happen. And we have to change it to the best of our ability. It is not for me to say that I will not see such things happening. And as I mentioned one time, that it is within even my own family members. It does happen. So it is not that I'm saying something here that is condemning anyone. Not that I'm condemning anyone or pointing fingers at anyone. It is where it does happen. Alright? So, we look at the walima. We look at the aspect of marriage. Now, what we look at? What advice the nikah and the sermon should be like? And that we mentioned as well. Within the relationship, we say that the sermon is one of the most important part of the marriage, because that advice is for the future couple. That advice the Rasul given was about nikah and the contract of the marriage, and what is the important aspect that Allah has played in that nikah sermon was about what? Taqwa. Consciousness of Allah in our lives. Without consciousness of Allah in our life, in that relationship, we are not serving our husband or wife, we are serving Allah. And the rights that we show to each other is not because we want our own personal rights to be fulfilled. What Allah has demanded from us to fulfill to each other is what it is. In other words, do not make demands that are beyond what Allah and the Messenger of Allah has made in that relationship. Sometimes we go beyond the call. We go beyond the call and the request, and we make demands from our spouses which are beyond what Allah and the Messenger of Allah has ordained for us to live as. So taqwa becomes the criterion to judge and to put us on check in line. Whenever we are going overboard, check that. Whenever we have issues, check with the Quran, check with the Sunnah. Whenever we have arguments, check with the Quran and Sunnah. Don't check with your mother-in-law or your father-in-law, or don't call this one, or don't call that one first, or don't call this your best friend first, or don't send texts and messages whole night, whole day, talking, arguing, everything outside. Check with the Quran and the Sunnah first. This is the advice. So the whole idea is that taqwa is a relationship with Allah in a marriage. And that is the advice that Allah is telling us. Don't use anyone else but the Quran and Sunnah. And that means it brings us to the level that we are not better than each other. We are not better than each other. We are equal to each other in the eyes of Allah, and the best between ourselves, Allah says, is the one who has what? Taqwa. Taqwa. He did not say by that means, but the best by means of taqwa. He used that as a station, even though man has been given the stage higher. We mentioned that degree higher. But that degree was a responsibility, not a what? Advantageous position. It is a responsibility, a steering that you have to guide your family by. Why the Quran tells us, Ku anfusakum wa ahlikum nar, or save yourself and save your family from the fire of hell. Means that you, oh man, you have a real big position. So the responsibility comes to that. It comes to that. Without a doubt. That a man, your position, yes, that degree doesn't mean anything else. No university, nothing at all. Talk about the responsibility. And never change from that. Understand that this khutbah, this sermon was about taqwa and in the line of taqwa. Then it comes to tell us, after all of this, what should be given to the imam and to the people and the newly wedded couple. And this is where, from next term, inshallah, we want to go on to the, we say a blissful life. Everybody praying for what? A happy marriage life. We want a good life. No doubt about it. But that comes with what? Hukukul ibad. The rights to each other. What are the basic rights that we have for each other? For example, the rights of the husband. What is the hukuk of the husband? What are the basic rights? And let's not talk about the actual things we're going to talk about next term. But for example, always remember, he is your crown. Your husband is your crown. He is your king. He should be honored. Don't look at other men and say, that man is a big position, and you're looking at him instead. No matter what your husband is, he is your king. You must make him feel as though he is your king. If you bring bhaji and roti instead of what? Royal or some other type of food, some royal food, it's chicken or something else, make sure he's still a king. Treat him as a king. He mightn't bring home what? Some big type of meat, he may bring home some vegetables, still treat him as what? A king. That is one of the rights. Make them feel as though they are that. Because that is one of the things that we know that makes a marriage grow and glow. And we'll come to their rights. One next right is that make sure that you treat them like this. Make them feel important. Don't just get up and say, I'm going to the grocery. You say it in a nice way. Or just get up and say, I feel out of band, you close today, To God, I feel out of band. Make them feel important. What you think? I feel I should change this. I find it looking too old. I should get this looking kind of this. And You know, that type of what? They call butter you up real good. So ladies should also pamper their boys, their husbands, make them feel what? Feel responsible. And it should be genuine, not just a pamper, but make them feel genuinely that it is really like that. All right? Because it makes them feel good. All right? And do not make requests or demands which is beyond their expenses. You know, what they could really spend, make it within that. Not beyond that. That is a right that is also due from the wife to the husband. All right? Sometimes you may demand, yes, you want more. All of us have desires. All of us want the best. But remember, always remember, he is a man, he is your king. And as much as he can provide, live within that kingdom. Don't look at somebody else one. Don't look at somebody else one. So he says, do not give off his wealth. You know, do not just spend your husband well, just like that, or his belongings without his permission. You know, at least ask. Yes, it is that right that is due as well for him. You know, his money he's working for. Sometimes you might have your own money, but sometimes you combine your wealth. All depends on how you do it. But the wealth that you share with each other must be done with a level of respect when you spend it. Sometimes, you know, you go and you buy a commodity, and you come to when you talk about marriage yourself. You buy something and you bring it in the house. I don't like this color. I don't like this size. You can buy a smaller one. You can buy a bigger one. This is the only thing you can find. You know what I mean? These things, we'll trash out later on, but I'm telling you, the expenses I'm talking about, don't go beyond or think otherwise. All right? So the next aspect of it is, do not consider your husband at any time to be inferior. If he have bad qualities and you see somebody else expressing good, righteous qualities, you've seen it, but you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Right? You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. So what you've seen might be good, but you don't see the other side. So what you have in your husband may be the best thing, but you consider him to be what? Inferior. Don't ever make him feel inferior. Because he might have, yes, faults, but those things can change by the help of encouragement. Not what? In the adverse. Because every time you nag on the what? The fault will just linger on. It wouldn't change. Faults won't change by nagging. Faults can only change when there's positive attitude. In other words, things that you don't like. You don't correct things, except it be in a positive way. All right? So these are things that you will advise a couple whilst they're what? Living. Train your children with these small things. You're going to have a husband. Know these things. Know these things before you go into the relationship. Know these things. He said, you should observe. You should not what? Observe any wrong in the Sharia. In other words, the husband should observe and make sure that there's nothing wrong in the Sharia habits. That is what is important. Whilst that individual is your husband, you know, the right of the wife and the husband is that to make sure that they are living within the laws of the Sharia. Within the laws of the Sharia. So, the wife must not have what? That level of relationship with Allah. And who makes sure that the wife has that relationship with Allah? The husband. He has to make sure that she has the knowledge about deen. Who's going to do it? The husband has to make sure that happens. Like in the other manner, the wife must also ensure that her husband is in order. If he doesn't go to pray, she has to wake him up to pray. If he's lazy and he doesn't want to read Quran, she has to encourage him to read Quran. If he's mingy and he's stingy and he doesn't want to give a little charity, she has to encourage him to give charity. She is the one who has to do all of these things. In other words, kindness towards the husband is to bring that husband up to what? Up to par with the Sharia. That is an aspect of a wife as well. One of the rights of the wife to the husband is to make sure that he is on deen. Why? Because if the husband is not praying on the day of Qiyamah, what happens to the wife? She's held accountable too. Yes, he's in the driver's seat. But she must not say, you see, time for prayer, go and sweep the yard, cut the grass. He cutting grass and Maghrib going down the road. Wife say, well, he's still clean. You're tired. No, go there, take off the machine and say, it's time to pray. Finish. Time to pray. Finish. That's where it ends. Because I am not going to let you drag me into the fire of hell because you want to cut grass and miss Salah. No. Because you can't read Quran, you're going to drag me in hell because of that? No. You better learn to read Quran. Because she is conscious about this person that she loves genuinely. And she wants to make sure that he goes into paradise. That is seeking the right of your husband. To make sure he's in this condition. Never call him by just his name. Just call him out in a raw name, Call him nice, in a good way, good words, all right? Treat him good. Or speak above him. Sometimes, yes, you might have a big mouth, you say that you're loud. Your voice may be heavier, I would say. But try to keep it what? Within your relationship, soft, nice, as best as possible. All right? Keep it going as best as possible. No matter how things are, always maintain the best speech. All right? And do not dispute or wrangle with the relatives with regards your husband's parents and elders. That's one of the advice you must always give towards the rights of the husband. Never, as you return from work, you know what your mother do today? You know what your father do today? If you know what your brother say. That is what? The recipe for disaster. It may be all true. It may be all right. What you're saying might be truth. Right? But that is not the way to deal with it. And time and place. There are ways and hikmah. In other words, you don't have to what? Make your husband become the enemy of his family. They will become open if they want to what? Destroy you by themselves. And you don't have to do a thing. You don't have to do a thing. Try your best not to use that approach as the right of the husband. One of the things is not to use that tool. That tool is the handiwork of shaitan. That is the handy tool of shaitan. What about the wives now? So we hear about the husband. What about the wives? The wife, one of the first haq and right and responsibility of her, and this is the advice you give when they leave in, make sure you have all these things intact, because marriage day, you have time for this. Make sure you know these things. So it says that the husn and the khalq, the good character of the woman, that is to live with her with love and respect. Never fall apart with that with your wife. You're calling her all the good names before, and you can never talk to she. Before you're talking to her about everything. And by the time you get married, all the talk gone. You don't have time to talk. They want to talk and you're sleeping away. Yeah, I want to tell you this story. And before you what? Before she can reach the end of the story, by halfway through it, you what? You knock out clear, you're done sleeping already. So they can't finish the talk. And you're always what? You're not paying attention. They're trying to tell you something, but you're not. They want you to watch them, but you really want to watch because you're hearing already, you really want to see. But really and truly, the advice should be that always treat with your wife as though she is the center of attraction. Make them feel that way. And not only make them feel that way, genuinely let them feel that way. That they are the center of your eyes. They are. It might be hard sometimes you feel, right? But it is what we should do. You know what I mean? They are the center of attractions, and this will make us focus on them to become the best. Right? It is hard sometimes, we say. I know in relationship go out differently sometimes. It is hard to maintain that focus and that attention. Alright? Then, the kindness and happiness and good character must always be maintained towards. That's a right that is due to them. Never shun them. Never just cast them in a room. The Jews and the other people that in the past nations, when they're in a relationship with their spouses, when they're being their menses, they put them aside. They put them aside. Right? We cannot have a relationship with our spouses, yes, in that condition, but we don't what? Put them aside. They are part of our relationship. They are a center of our attraction. We maintain that relationship with them in such conditions that we are loving and caring to them and listening to them and attention to them, even under such conditions. All right? To bear patiently in moderation her errors. No matter what she say, she might just blurt out something. Don't just jump to the gun and you know what? You know, sometimes our tongue can be very sharp. You know, say something and you already have what? Fast as it coming out, you have an answer waiting. Yeah, you think we out yet good and you don't have an answer waiting. Because you're so trained to do it. Really and truly. It's not tit for tat. The rights of the wife is that we must be able to endure all of that. When the dog barking out at time, what does do? Tell him shut up. Stay quiet. Don't bark today. I can't take on the noise. So really and truly, I'm not talking about wives being dogs. Don't get it wrong. What I'm saying is that we tolerate animals and they're what? Nuisance. This is our wife. We could tolerate anything to the best of what is halal and within the means, all right? So we have to know what we are talking about in respect of that. Then to be what? Modest towards her. That is, we should not cross the level of modesty. Modesty means that a wife is not what? We see people, gallivanting themselves and say, I want you to dance like this for me. I want you to do that. I want you to do that. Always maintain a level of what? Modesty with your wife. Let her know that her decor and her way and her dress is also important in front of you. Yes, there are places where in your bedrooms, the relationship that you have within each other should be maintained in privacy. But even in the home and in the way that she would dress should also be honorable. Should be honorable. Don't go there, well, in my house I could dress how I would feel. It is all well and good, yes, but a level of respect is also important. Also important, not only for her, for yourself. Don't just walk around all over the place with what? The sliders, what I mean, just all over the house. And I have my privacy. I could dress as I like. No. It is also important that you maintain a level of what? That level of modesty within your relationship. Because sometimes you'll grow up and have children. And you want to make sure that you don't let you fall into a habit now and you just what? Well, we had dressed like this before, so what's the difference now? We have children? No. Moderate dress is always appropriate for us in our relationship. Alright? To adopt that level of moderation in spending upon her as well. There is also an arrangement where the husband, if our wives are not working, that it is stipulated that a certain amount of stipend or money must be given to her. That must be hers to spend on her own. Not to say, well, I'm giving you money to buy a fridge and say, well, I give you money, Or give you money to buy a stove or to buy something for the house. And when you want to give them a gift, you buy a iron or you buy a fridge or you buy this and say, I'm buying this for you. What should you do with that fridge? You do with that stove. I'll buy a bed for you. Like you don't sleep on the bed, you don't get food from the stove. That is not what? That is not a gift. That is not a gift. A gift is really when we what? Give them something that is personal to them. That is theirs. So that stipend is important. That we must know as men, we must always maintain that relationship that what is theirs, you give them something personal for themselves that they must have nothing to do with the house, nothing to do with food, nothing to do with any maintenance, but for themselves, to spend on themselves so that they will all be comfortable and happy. Alright, they can keep it, save it, whatever they want to do, but it is theirs. Alright? And ensure that our spouse, our wife, learn Islam. Like is our right, also it is the right of the husband. Not to let's have her cooking, washing, cleaning, doing everything else, maintaining children, and she has no time to learn to read Quran. She has no time to do anything for deen. She has no aspect with deen, no relationship with Islam. Then you are down the track for destruction. Not destruction in this life only. You might have everything going good home, You live your whole life going good. But what's worldly things taken care of. But if you made her and she did not what? Perform her salah. She did not have time for tilawat of Quran. She did not have time for deen. And you say everything is going right, something is wrong because you're going to make her destroy her life in the hereafter. And who's going to be accountable? Husband. Husband is responsible for his wife if she reached that state. Very careful. Very careful. Make sure that our sons know this, that it is a right of the husband, not to put punishment upon him or put hardship upon him. You see, tell your wife, you see, she never what? Before you see her, she never wear hijab. She never dress like this. But the minute they get married, you know what? You have to cover yourself head to toe. Finish. She said, but you never tell me this before. You never say all these things before. No saying that now. Get to pray. Time to pray. Do this, do that. Don't demand on the Sharia upon her if this was not brought clear before. So in other words, you know how to what? Train her into deen. You want to bring her into deen? And your responsibility as a husband? You teach her. Don't demand her on deen. There is no what? Compulsion in this religion, but there is also on a level of what? Teaching and etiquettes and encouragement. It is the best way and advice for things to grow. So inshallah, there are a few more points, but basically that is the main ingredients. And last I will mention about it is that one of the haqq and the right is that we should ensure that our wives visit their relatives, her non-mahram, her mahram, her father, her brothers, her sisters, and her parents. It is important that we maintain a relationship with them. Don't cut out relationship with them and say, well, I don't go by them. And you see that your parents, them and how they behave, you're seeing me there, and you so and so and so. No. No matter what it is, still maintain a relationship out of it. If you are kind to your wife and you treat your wife good, maybe your family and her family may change their ways and their lives as well. So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us immensely for making this, this opportunity for us to do this basic topic on how to seek a wife and, how to seek a husband and how to maintain up to the point of this next term, inshallah. We hope that we'll be able to go along now how to live in a married life, inshallah. Let us make dua, inshallah, and close. اللهم آمين اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم